我们现在
Hello.
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 Hi,
Hello
Daniel.
Daniel.
Hey there.
Let's wait for one more minute. Share the screen. And Daniel, the issue you bring out for last time is 477. I think OneFlow just commented 19 days ago. And since they both you both are here, I think it's a good chance you can discuss it out.
I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I put my answer there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for having to read that. Me.
Yeah, I mean, as a say of my answer, I think some of that were okay. I mean, this is what I was trying to in the name of MySQL, my SQL component, and use it in the WordPress one, so it fits my requirement. My comment here is that probably think about putting this inside back from KubeVela.
Oh, cool. Would you like?
You can try and open a div to this, yeah. Okay.
Project. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Let
Yes,
me take a note, and
cool.
I will submit the chain for the input-output stuff.
Yes.
Try to see how we can fit it into the spec.
Okay. Will you use KubeVela in your company?
We are right now in the process of migrating actually to the new runtime.
Okay.
So we are working actively in introducing the latest OAM revisions in the product.
Okay.
Right. I assume there are only 4 of us. So Daniel is me, and let me introduce you, Jian Bo-Sun, and he's the OneFlow familiar GitHub ID, OneFlow that always reply to you.
Yeah.
There's another maintainer or maintainer, Inda, dying. He's also with us for this time.
Okay, cool.
I think maybe let me just introduce you the newest updates on Vela 1.3 if you have noticed. So we have, if you check the KubeVela.io, the version 1.3, and you can see the structure of the documentation have been altered.
I don't know if you are sharing the screen or something, but I'm not getting it.
Oh, sorry. I just reconnected.
That's okay.
How about now?
Yeah.
So you can see in the past, and in the former version of KubeVela 1.2, we introduced KubeVela mainly based on Vela UX, which we aims to provide you a lighter way to use use KubeVela or integrate or just go with using KubeVela. And now I think go to like make the concepts clear and make the products more clear, we have a clarification introduction, the first doc. You can see the main three parts of KubeVela are Vela UX, add-ons, and Vela core. So with Vela UX is the dashboard, you already knowing, and is pretty much lightweight, and you're going to use it by just click, right, and we'll drag components. Then in the second layer is about add-ons, so you can integrate it with more features, use it for more scenarios as GiveOps, AIOps, finance tech ops, etc. So it's the second layer, which is the ecosystem of add-on. And the basic layer, Vela core, is where you used to use very much as Vela CLI. So this is now a clear structure of doc. Hope this hope this help you understand more.
I think so. I mean, I'm pretty busy on the stuff. I didn't saw the latest revision, but I think it looks quite fine. I mean, having this clear separation, I think it will help.
And also you can see the Vela core part is it consistent with getting started, basics, concept explanation, and also architectures, and tons of how-to guides. The problem you want to solve, and just query in this section and find like more trades, how to attach inside cards, etc. And the same for Vela UX. Getting started, the typical scenarios to solve your problems, and the basic of concept explanation and how-to guides. This this effort mainly credit to OneFlow. He changed all these structures.
That's huge. I mean, refactoring documentation always takes a huge effort.
Yeah, but it's important, I think.
Yeah.
And I think our doc is still not perfect. We still need a lot of effort for that, and we are contributing more docs into the site. Most of them is still not enough in about Vela UX. Yes, we are writing more docs about how to use Vela UX.
Yeah, many of the parts are still in lag, so we are about to shipping more guides and Vela UX, as wonderfully explained. Many more to help you like cover everything that you need to proceed with Vela UX. And I think about one or 2 weeks, now we'll be all ready. Regarding this part, do you have any concerns or questions, Daniel?
No. I mean, I am starting to understand the way the documentation of KubeVela is structured. So after this point, I'm okay with the information I'm finding. And I mean, if I'm missing something, I will probably even submit it as a, hey, this is not covered, something like that. But for right now, I think it's pretty convenient actually. And there is, I noticed quite a lot more examples, like real examples that you can copy paste, and that is always useful. So that's pretty great, yeah.
Great.
Yeah. I want to raise another proposal. I think we can align the KubeVela core, Vela core with OAM spec, and I think this is almost the right point to start. There are some concept in KubeVela, but not in the OAM spec. And I think if Daniel, you would like to, I think we can align them.
Yeah. I mean, I was taking a look to the other day to the policy stuff.
Yeah, not only the input output, but also the policy and the workflow.
Yeah. I mean, I think, as you mentioned, this is a good moment to start getting one after the other, because in some way policy seems to be replacing scopes, but at the same time, I think that I think it's a good moment to start moving forward into that and to be clear about why this entity is different and the necessity and all that stuff.
Yeah,
I just took a look to the policy proposal that was also referenced in the spec, but I didn't have time to actually put comments on that. So
of course,
yeah,
we don't need to be hurried. We just I think we should take more consideration about the policy and the workflow, and we have practiced a lot about this mechanism, especially about policy and the workflow. But around the policy system, the policy can be Kubernetes custom resource or generate queue steps that work in the workflow. And the workflow is a declarative way to run step-by-step process in a declarative way. So when a user specify his continuous delivery progress in our application, then he can define step by step. For example, deploy his resources into one cluster and wait for manual approve, and then deploy to another cluster. And in this phase, then we every step, after every step finished, then the KubeVela controller will make reconcile for that and keeps the configuration in the state we declared, so we can avoid the configuration drift and avoid that in the workflow progress. That can be very helpful, especially in continuous delivery. Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I mean, from our point of view, I think we are still seeing like there may be an upper level entity for like a workflow for applications, not within the application itself. But
okay, we don't need to. Yeah, this a workflow within the application is not necessary. We can put it outside and ref the workflow outside. We also implement that feature.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know that it was. I will try it. But yeah, from what we took a look at the beginning, I think that having a workflow that works in a different layer than application, I think it could have a great potential, basically to also manage different applications. Like, hey, instantiate this, and an application can have its own rules, let's say a workflow internally, but maybe you need another on top of that. But yeah, I think it's a good, I think it's a good moment to start moving forward and just get back to the discussions of what workflows mean, how policies are included in the spec, what happened with the scopes, because one thing I see also is that somehow policies are quite useful and are being generated, but if you take a look to the entity internally, you also have a scope reference there. So at the end of the day, the user reading documentation or trying to find examples probably will get confused. So
yes,
I think having a resolution on policies versus a scope, I will propose to do that first before entering the workflows.
Okay, and it is also can be discussed if we want to make the workflow as the entry point.
Sure, I think that'd be good. I mean, I see how workflow benefits a single application, let's say, managing components and things like that. But I think there is also a point of if we consider workflow like another entity, and you can either, I mean, if we facilitate referencing stuff properly, it will have the potential of doing both things probably. So I think we should consider that approach also.
Okay.
Okay, anyway, I will send the input-output proposal first. So
Okay,
we can
yes.
start working on something as a next step. And let me, in the meantime, get my head around the specific of policies and things like that. And yeah, we can continue discussing.
Yes, yes. We the input-output is the first thing that we can learn, and then we can discuss the next points. And I also think the scope is necessary to be kept. We don't need to remove the scope concept, although it's not implemented in the KubeVela.
Yeah, I mean that may be true. I mean, I think that from the point of view, at least from the, not even the spec, more for the documentation, like users reading throughout the documentation, like, hey, what do I need to use for my use case? And I think we need to be pretty clear about, hey, if a scope makes sense, which are the use cases that they make sense for, and when somebody should use policies and when somebody should use scopes at the end of the day.
Yeah, in my view, we needed to add more use case for the OAM spec. The use case can from our practices in KubeVela or other practices from yours, for example.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Great. I assume you both have came to a conclusion, and I've noticed that by saying the ref objects, the new features in KubeVela, this is where KubeVela is very valuable. That we experiment some ideas and we test it and then find it very good, useful, and for developer. Ref objects is the thing that we tested. So I think this is also as a proof that we should keep continuing testing ideas in KubeVela.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it will always be useful to have a method to test it out. Mm-hmm. So yeah, sure.
Right. Next, I think we can discuss the next version of OAM spec, as Wonderful just mentioned, and the community will give out our inputs. Daniel, I think you can give out inputs, and lately, let's just get going with the next version of OAM spec.
Yeah, sure. I think that what is actually right now referenced in the spec for 3.1x or something like that, which is basically like policies and workflows, plus this input-output, let's say. I think this could be a starting scope for the next release.
Great. I got no more topics to discuss, and we have a new attendee in that. Do you have something to share with us, or?
Okay, I will try to give some share my opinions. Sorry, I haven't been discussing with English for a while, so maybe there are some mistakes. And
that's okay. I'm not either an English speaker, a native English speaker, so don't worry about that.
It's interesting to it's the first time for me to enter this discussion, so it's interesting to discuss about the idea for the OAM spec. And we just as Jianbo and we mentioned, we in KubeVela we add a lot of policy things and workflow things, but in my opinion, the role of workflow and policy in the application, there are still a lot of things undetermined. So before they entered the OAM spec, I think we should have a more we should have more discussion about the understanding of these kind of things, such as what role should the policy parts plays. So in my opinion, I think that in KubeVela application, the current policy mainly describes describe two things. The first one is like there are some global configuration for the application. For example, if you have traits for the component, usually those traits only works for the target component. But sometimes we need some global configuration for all the components in the application. So this kind of things like application scope, we can place it in the policy. This is one of the use case for KubeVela now. And another thing for policy is like we can configure some like a garbage collection policy, like the working mechanism of the application controller. So it's like we are placing some application scope, the mechanism and the configuration into the policy part. But I think it's a bit weird to directly placing it into the OAM spec model, because it seems like have some conflicts with the scope definition and the related things. So I also want, since Jianbo and I and we are all from the KubeVela team, so I'm also interested with how like Daniel and other community members see this kind of things in OAM spec. I'm not sure if I have delivered my idea correctly.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think, I mean, I agree with you. That's I think there is some discussion to be taken. That's what I was referring to as what is the difference, let's say, between scope and policy from the point of view of the spec, and where are the delimiting lines in between them, right? So yeah, we need to discuss it. I think that's there should be some discussion going on, and see how it fits, and maybe it doesn't fit, like, because this is also another topic that was mentioned once, like the spec doesn't necessarily need to contain everything that the runtime do, but it's worth the discussion to see if something can benefit all user cases. So
yeah, I agree your point that the spec doesn't need to contain everything, and I also want to add some input. For the policy spec, we can use policy as a common trait sharing by the components in the same application. And for the scope concept, the scope can be used by different applications, and they can share in just like a trait that can be shared between applications. For example, if we want to add some concept about product, when we want to add some business concept, for example, we want to add some make label as a group, then we can use a scope for different applications that in the same project, in the same product. Yeah. So when the different applications has the same scope, the scope maybe add some labels, then these applications can be in the same product. They can be several. There can be several microservices that form the one product, and the one product can be share the same quota, same health check, or same other mechanism. And I think the main difference is trait is just belong to one component, and the policy can be shared by components in the same application, and the scope can be shared by different applications. Yes.
Yeah, that could be one approach. It will make sense to try to define it.
We can continue discuss these things in the issue. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I mean, at least for me right now, I need to process some of the ideas and see how they fit in my mind. So yeah, I think we should open issues and start discussing about the different approaches.
Yeah, also about another important thing, the workflow part. I think we also need to have a lot of discussion for how it should be placed in the OAM spec. So for the workflow part, I think we can understand it like the underlying executor for the application now. So after we declare that we have components and traits in the application, we need some executor to dispatch this resource into the clusters. So it's like we are using the workflow part in the application to make the real arrangement, even if that users can use application without the workflow. But in the implementation part, our KubeVela implementation is like translate the application into a workflow and execute it to dispatch all the resource. So this is one side of the workflow part. But another side we were discussing, which is not implemented now, it's like we also need something like a pipeline to make arrangement for on top of the applications. Like users can have many applications to be placed in the cluster, but they might need to be deployed with orders. So at this time, we might need some pipeline things to organize the dispatch of applications. So I think like in OAM spec, we can have one workflow things like the pipeline, which can be outside the application. It can be an individual entity, not necessarily inside the application, but it also has another side of the attributes that it plays an important role in the application's implementation. So I'm not sure if we need to place all of two things into the OAM stack, and maybe we can place the insights one first.
I think this must be tons of new messages for Daniel.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
No, I think you're right. I mean, from the outside point of view, what you define as a pipeline kind of thing, that was more the approach I had in mind before. Like, you will define a workflow that will take several applications and do different stuff with different applications, and each application can have many different components. And I think that could be useful even for CI/CD pipelines and things like that may reuse other applications like instantiate databases and things like that, preload testing data and something like that, deploy the application, deploy the acceptance tester. I see this outside of the application workflow for things like that. That could be useful. From within inside, sure. The thing is that it's also I think it also makes sense from the point of view of the application, independently of whether there is also an implementation aspect that needs to be considered. But sure, I think the important part here for me will be like, hey, let's start discussing workflows from what we've learned and what you have already there in KubeVela. See how they fit within the spec, and maybe, I don't know, maybe the spec just considers the outside one and the internal one is runtime dependent. That could be a possibility even.
Yeah, so I think we can have there is a simple graph which can illustrate the internal workflow. I will find it and share it. It might
Sure, if you can
make it more clear. Yeah.
Yeah, you can paste it on the meeting notes. I will take a look to it.
Yeah. I'm trying to find it.
Okay. Anyway, you can also contact me directly if you want to through Slack.
Yeah, so I'm not sure how to share a picture inside the meeting. So I will send this picture to Wei. And is it possible to for Wei to can you see my I send you a message.
Yes, I just shared it. You can see the screen.
So you want me to share the screen?
No, you can see the screen. I just shared your picture.
No, I cannot see it. You are still.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yes.
Browser page. Yeah.
Yes. Wait a sec.
Yeah, so this is like Daniel, this is like the current KubeVela's implementation for the workflow and policy. One of the important use case which we are dedicating on the version 1.3. So you can see like the one of the most powerful scenario for the KubeVela application is to deploy components in different clusters. And we use the workflow inside the application, and also you can make it outside and refer it inside the application as well. So like we are declaring how this application should be placed. Like it should be placed in cluster 1 and cluster 2, and they might have some different configurations which can be declared inside the override policy. And later we use the workflow to arrange the whole deploy process. So from this picture, you can see like the KubeVela how KubeVela application can work with the policy and workflow part. Yeah. So this workflow is just as I said, is the internal workflow inside the application.
Okay. If you can paste the image or the link or something like that in the notes, I will take a look to it in detail.
Yeah. I'm not sure. This image should be posted in the KubeVela's documentation, but I'm not sure the documentation is up to date now. I will share your link, and also I can post a link in under the issue of the spec discussion.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, that'd be great.
Right. So everybody, do we have more things to discuss?
Not from my side. It was a pretty useful meeting today. So a lot of things to move forward.
Great. I think next thing is that we will be discussing the next version of OS spec, and the community will give out like Indar, also Jambo, they will give out new like the ideas we have been testing in KubeVela, and what are the parts regarding in terms of like policy or workflows, how many of them and portion of them should be placed in the new version of OAM spec. And we are also invite Daniel to give your opinions on that. And let's do the next version of OAM spec.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
Great meeting for today and good night.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks,
See you in the
Daniel.
next one.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks.
Bye.
Daniel. Thanks everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.